Switch.
Hi, this is Jansons and welcome to my studio in North London. Today I'm going to walk you through my track Switch, which I did with Dope Birth Alien on vocals, which came out in Circus Recordings at the start of this year. I'm going to give you an insight of how I produce my drums, my processing techniques, and how we recorded the vocals in the studio and how we got it to sounding how we did punchy and live in the clubs. I like to talk about organising my projects first. I always have the kick drum at the top. Probably most producers do that as well. I always have my percussive stuff in like orange and like lighter orange. These are more like sort of separate hits, etc. And then claps in yellow. Then I normally group all the percussive stuff to a drum group. So if I just play that, you'll hear it all together. I'll talk about the processing of that in a minute. And then my highs, hats, shakers, rides, etc. are always in blue. And I'll normally group them all together. So if I click there. Then like bass, low end, always brown. Once again, they'll be grouped together. Sorry. I didn't actually group with Tom on this particular project, but that's a Tom, that's not the main sort of low end of the track. Just basically 909 Tom, which I've got an actual 909, but I didn't record it from the 909 on this project. It's come from Machine, which I'll show you in a minute how I did that. Then vocals, pink, and they'll be grouped to a vocal group as well.
All my girls trip, yeah, they all going dumb when the track gets loud. They ones with hands up. All my boys go dun-dum, dun-dum when the beat drops. They the ones who follow the drum, and I'm...
Synths, music-y bits, I normally do like in blues and purples. I didn't actually group this because there's not much synth parts in this project, so just three tracks. And then effects and stuff I do in green, and that's grouped in effects group as well. I find doing that just helps me familiarise myself on every project. I know where to go if I want to go for a drum sound or something. I know I look there. That's all the orange parts. Same as on the mixer. If I move that over, you'll see that they're all colour coded there as well. It just helps me with my workflow and speeds things up. And I also, my main project's main DAW is Logic, but I also use Ableton. Basically for the browser, so I'll be going through different loops, playing along with the track and then hearing what bits of the loop I like, maybe chop out a snare, percussion, etc. I'll show you that in a minute though, because I've done it here, and we'll walk through that in a minute. Right, so the kick drum, if I solo that, it's on EQ, if I start here. Just a solid kick. I've also laid it up with another kick, so I'll put that down, which is a bit more saturated. I use Fab Filter Saturn. It's like a multi-band sort of distortion thing. And I've just boosted it in the mids to give it a little bit more bite. If you put them together, just gives that a little bit more bite and knock on the top of it. On the actual kick itself, I love this EQ from Slate Digital. I've literally just boosted it a bit on the 40 Hertz. And on the upper mids as well. If I solo that and take it on. Not doing that much, but it just helps, gives that little bit of extra punch. Probably my go-to EQ is Fab Filter. Fab Filter Plus is Pro Q2 because it's an older project, but I'm using Pro Q3 now. And I also use transient designers a lot on my percussive stuff. Once again, very subtle, just taking a little bit of sustain off so it's not so boomy and flabby, just to control it a bit more. Excuse me. And then I've sent the kick to a bus using Waves R bass. And basically, this is a great little plugin just to add harmonics on certain frequencies you want. So I've done it at 185, just to give that extra bit more power. It's also good on snare drums. If you've got like a weak snare drum, you want to give it a bit more body. This is a great little tool to use. Just set the frequency that you'd like the sound of and boost it. But I've literally just sent it to the send and return on the kick. So if I play it, once again subtle, but just gives that extra bit more weight to the kick. And if you put all the stuff together, it's a pretty chunky kick and it sounds good in the club. Right, so I'll talk about the percussion in this track now, which is quite a lot of it, to be honest. But the way I did the percussion in this track was going through old records that I've sampled. I don't know if you can see, there's a lot of records in here, and I've spent a lot of time going through them, taking bits that I've liked and sampled them, and just basically building drums around that. So if I play each part individually, you'll hear. Actually, that's from the group, isn't it? Just some sort of deep, sort of Tommy bongo-y thing there. And on this loop, I just liked the clav, sort of. But I only like that bit, so that's what I tend to do, is I tend to get the loop, that's the full loop there. But I just didn't like that bit, but I liked the sounds of that bit, so I just literally chopped and edited it, put them together. Sounds nice. And here we've got. Once again, I'll get a loop in, I'll hear a little sound, and I'll just chop and edit them out. That's already been done already, so you can see it's empty there, but what I tend to do is chop, then I'll glue it. So if I just do it now, like that, then I'll go, oh, it's MIDI there. I'll just glue it all up here with the glue tool. And that just makes it easier for when you're, that's there. It makes it easier when you're copying and pasting it along. If you've got loads of little bits of chops, it starts getting, I know I haven't done it there, but if you start doing it a lot, it starts getting messy and some might go out of time and stuff like that. So if you look at the whole project, it's quite neat and tidy in terms of like the regions. They're all like just solid blocks. It just helps you when you're copying and pasting and moving it along, not to start getting things in a mess. I'm a big fan of keeping things in order and tidy, because it helps you with your workflow when you get proper deep into the project. And all these bits here are basically little percussive hits, just randomised. I've taken bits that I liked and just chopped it along, so just ping about with the rest of the drums. So here we go. Just a little interesting, funky hits and percussion just help give the groove a bit more interest, and just being really loopy. Subtle panning on them as well, just to spread out a bit. And then that's all the sort of percussive stuff really in the drums. And then there's just a clap. Simple sort of 9/9 clap. So processing wise on the percussive stuff, I haven't done particularly much. Basically, the basic rule, just have done quite a bit there, but taking off the highs, taking off the lows. Same again, it's basically just EQing. I haven't done any compression on the percussive stuff because I didn't feel like it needed it. I mean, they're sampled from good records or whatever, so I know they sound good anyway. So if it sounds good in a mix, the balance is right, I don't feel like I need to do any compression on it. There's a bit of reverb on this one here if I just unsolo these. It's a weird little sound, a bit of reverb on it. Same as the clap. I've taken off quite a lot there, but I didn't really have much there anyway. Just basically getting rid of all the mud off all the other stuff that you don't really need. So, like I said, what I'll do is I'll send all the percussion to a drum group. So if you can see on here, I started off with an EQ, just rolling off at 80. Next thing I do, which is like my secret weapon on drums, is I use Soundtoys Devil Lock. best way to describe it is like a sort of heavy compressor, distortion, saturator all in one, and it's pretty it really lifts your drums, it really squashes them and gives them that power and energy. I mean, I've only used a mix, it's only a very subtle mix of it, but if I play it and do the more extreme version of it, see, he's really crushing it and really making it sound dirty. I thoroughly recommend it if you put it on your drum bass, it just makes a big difference. See, it just sort of gives it that glue and makes all the sound together and up front. Then I use Ozone Imager just to give it a bit more width. I don't know if you can hear that on the, unless you've got good speakers, but it just seems to spread it out a bit. Because I want my kick and my bass and the vocal right in the middle being punchy. And then obviously, I'll talk about the filter later because that's more for automation and the breakdown. But if I take those plugins off, put them on, it's just lifting it all up and squashing it and making it sound a bit more upfront in the mix. And I've just sent that bus, a group, sorry, to a reverb bus. So it's an extreme version. Just gives the drums that space. And obviously EQ'd off after the reverb, because don't want any of that low mud. Let's ascend. So that's pretty much it for the percussion. I mean, like I said, I think it's really important just to really find the source good first, like the sounds. If you find good sounds and they work with each other, you shouldn't have to do, in my opinion, that much processing. If you are butchering with EQs and throwing loads of compressors on it, it's probably not the right sound for the track. So I'd say really, really work hard at getting the source material right first. Like I said, with like sampling some old records that you like, because you know you're going to like the sounds first of all. Yeah, just be creative. Use machines like the 808s and 909s, because you know all those sounds, those drum machines fit with each other. So just find the source material right first of all. That's what I'd recommend. Okay, so highs. Pretty simple, the highs on this really. This hat here is just from Machine actually. Just a hi-hat I've got in Machine, which I'll explain in a minute, because I'm going to explain you how I did the toms through Machine as well. Pardon me, sorry. Just a high loop, little dip on that little resonant peak there, taking off the lows again. See, there's quite a lot of dirt and mud in that, so which I just don't need. The filter's basically just filtering up, so it starts off and brightening it. It's just to start off from the track, basically. There. Just brightens up there as it goes along. Once again, just a shaker loop. Using one of my probably favourite tools, LFO tool. Great little plug-in, it's only about 20 quid. I thoroughly recommend you get it. It's basically just like a sidechain thing, but it's super quick. You don't have to worry about using the compressors to send it to stuff, and you can literally shape it how you want it. So off, you can go as extreme as you want. I just find it better and easier using a sidechain compression. It's great as well. You can use it on, if you're using pads and synths. It's got great gates and it's got some great presets. Like you get some funky rhythms out of it, definitely. A lot of gates. So you can imagine that on a pad or something, you start getting interesting rhythms. So it's a great plugin. I use it loads now. Like I said, this project's a bit older now, but if you need to see my new projects, it will pretty much be on a lot of the tracks, basically. And then the only other highs I've got really on this is the rides when it comes in a bit later, which I programmed in Machine, which I'll show you in a minute. But I use Machine pretty much. At some stage on every track there'll be some machine going on. I love it. Machiner, however you call it. Native Instruments. It's brilliant. Well, actually, it might have been from the 9. I can't remember because I use the some projects. I'll just record the 909. I've got you can't see it there behind there, but it's like a sync box that syncs up the 808, the 707, and the 909. And I literally just have a little jam, hit record in Logic, and to record everything in. And then afterwards, I'll go back and chop the bits out that I like, because sometimes it's just fun to be messing about in the machines. So that could have been done on the 909 actually. I can't remember now. But that's pretty much it for the highs. Once again, processing wise, I don't think I did that much for the highs, to be honest, because I just liked how they sound. And I thought, yeah, they sounded good. There's a bit of obviously automation going on, moving in and out on the highs on those sort of that shaker loop there. But yeah, if we go onto the mixer, yeah, pretty much just EQs taken off the lows once again, taking off the mud that I didn't want. A dip there, obviously. If I go to the group, once again, even on the group, I've only just got an EQ. Just leave that there. A little dip around 6,000 hertz, 8,000 hertz. Always find that's a bit harsh sometimes, especially in like 9/9 hi-hats. Always find that's a bit on the ear, so I normally do a little dip there. And most of the time, I always roll off the real highs on the top end, because I just don't like things too bright. That's a style. That's my production style. And once again, rolled off the lows. So pretty basic stuff on the highs, but like I said, if it works, it works, and I feel like it works perfectly with all the percussion and the drums in the track. So if we play the highs, the drums and the kick together. Sometimes as well, which I haven't done this one, but what I do is I'll send the drum group and the high group to another group, which I'll do now. I'll just put them to. So I'll just call that. It just depends how extreme you want to go. Let that bus go. Those are both together. And I might actually put another devil lock on it, so this would be extreme. It depends, some people like that sound as well, that really crushed sound. Yeah. Just go back on the mix a bit. Once again, very subtle, but it's just adding even more, a bit more punch, a bit more glue to the overall drum mix. And even if I'm going more extreme, I might send that drum group to ascend. I tend to use this slate compressor, which I'll show you, which I think is wicked. Basically just parallel compressing. I use what's called the Monster, which is here. I use this setting. Drum group smasher. And this is basically if you want to thicken up your drums even more. Off. Just making it more and more in your face. Like I said, if you want that sort of style of record, that's a good little thing to do. that was the end of part 1. If you want to see the rest of the video, check out the latest issue of Computer Music.